Hey friends, welcome back to Birds of a Feather Talk Together. John is still in New Zealand and Australia, so this week we're revisiting one of our favorite conversations, our interview with Peter Kaestner, the world record holder for the most bird species seen in the wild and the first person ever to surpass 10,000 bird species. We recently mentioned Peter on a podcast when Shannon recognized one of his recordings of a Ruwenzori turako, which reminded us what an incredible guest he was. Join married ornithologists and curators of birds at the Field Museum, John Bates and Shannon Hackett, along with me, RJ, and my wife Amanda, as we sit down with one of the most accomplished birders in history. Peter shares remarkable stories from his travels across the globe, insights from a lifetime spent chasing birds, and plenty of unforgettable adventures along the way. Peter's passion, knowledge, and gift for storytelling make this a truly special episode. Okay, let's grab our binoculars and let's get into it. Well, Peter, we're really excited to have you on. So thank you so much for joining us. And basically, all of our episodes are about different birds, and a lot of them we just kind of cover like a different bird, and we'll just do one episode where we focus on a bird, and we do both local and birds from all over. So I know Jack Turner introduced us, and we had Jack on to talk about osprey like a year ago. And so when Jack emailed and connected us, we were so thrilled that you were going to come on. So thanks a lot for joining us.
My
Just
pleasure.
wanted to say how excited we are.
I love doing these things.
And so I think, you've had a career, that has spanned for so long. And I know that your actual career itself has given you the opportunity to see a lot of these birds. But just wanted to go back to kind of how it all started. And I mean, as a child, you were into birding as well, it sounded like, and this has always kind of been something.
If you look at my eBird profile page, there's a photograph of me. It's the earliest picture I have. Actually, I have couple of pictures around the same time of me birding at about age 4. And the interesting thing is I don't have a spark bird, but my older brother, who is 8 years older than I, saw a vermilion flycatcher, and that was his spark bird. And at that time, I was only 2, so I really didn't know my thumb from my index finger at that point, although the thumb probably tasted better. But eventually, as I became more prescient and grew up, and around 4 or 5 years old, I started birding because my older brother was birding, and he was sort of the role model for the family in a lot of different ways, and still is a great guy. And we're planning a trip to Brazil this fall. We try to get out almost every year to do a special birding trip for the two of us.
I had read today, I listened to a podcast interview you had done, Bucket List Birding. You had done an interview with them.
Is that with, what's that guy's name? The Swedish guy in Peru?
Yes, the Swedish guy in Peru, yes.
Gunnar Engblom?
Gunnar,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gunnar.
And you had talked about your brother worked for McCormick and was a spice trader.
Yes, he was a spice buyer for McCormick, and it was great. He did like 250 business trips, and he lived near Baltimore. McCormick Spice headquarters, their global headquarters, is a third of a mile from my house. And Hank would go off on these trips and then come back. And he would always hand type up a list of all the birds he saw and where he saw them. And it would say, business trip to Java, or business trip to Sri Lanka, or business trip to Mexico. And he actually still has all these. He's put them into eBird. But he did something like 250 of these business trips. And every one of them has a bird list associated with it.
That is awesome.
Reading about you so reminded me of John's family and John's father. I didn't have a spark bird. I didn't even know until recently that there were such things as spark birds. I didn't grow up bird watching or looking at birds. I was just a weird kid who liked to be outside. But John's family, it's like he belongs to you guys.
That's great.
I think we overlapped with one another in Manaus sometime in the late 1980s. Down in Manaus, Brazil, that you might have come by the Minimum Critical Size of Ecosystems project at some point.
It's possible. I worked in Washington, and it was the early 1990s, 80s. God,
I could be wrong about this. But
okay, 88 to 90, I was in Bogota.
Okay.
So 88 to 90 was Bogota. So before that, I was in Washington, but I don't remember. I may have gone to Brazil on business and gone up to Manaus. In fact, it's very possible I did. I have a picture of an antpitta, variegated antpitta.
Yeah, that's actually one of the birds.
I remember I was trying to get, there's a tower, and I was wanted to be at the tower at dawn, so I was walking through the forest by myself in the middle of the night, around 4 in the morning or something, and I spotted the antpitta sleeping over top of the trail, and I took a photograph of it. It's one of the very few photographs from that era that I still have. Wow, that's a small world, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I went to an event last night my wife is a Maryland master naturalist, and she volunteers at the local state park, the Oregon Ridge. And we were over there, and the guy sitting next to me introduced himself, and it turns out he played lacrosse with my father.
Oh.
Or his father played lacrosse with my father. I mean, just crazy the connections. It's wonderful.
That is so cool.
When you've traveled as much as you have, Peter, too, the world's a lot smaller, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It really is.
You probably have stories all over. Yeah.
I've been to so many places and so many times. Someone asked me how many times I've been to Colombia. I think I've been to Colombia, apart from living there for 2 years. I think I've had another 10 trips back to Colombia. I'm going again this fall. It'll be the 6th year in a row that I've gone to Colombia, and I still have birds to see.
I was going to say, so there must be specific places you're trying to get to.
Yes, there's one really important one. Actually, a couple of important ones. There was a split of the white-bibbed manakin a few years ago. They split it into like 4 or 5 different species. And apparently I misappropriated one of my sightings in Colombia to the wrong species. It was in the Chaco, in a place called Bahia Solano. And somebody pointed out, somebody was doing some eBird cleanup and said, hey, you might want to take a look at this record. It's out of range. So I looked at it and said, oh, I put it in the wrong species. And in doing that, I lost a bird. This just happened like 6 months ago. So now one of my motivations for going back to Colombia is to get that manakin. Because when I'm in Brazil, I'm going to try to see the opal-crowned and golden-crowned manakins, which are two really interesting, rare, limited Amazon manakins. So if I get all 3 of them, that'll be all the world's manakins.
So Amanda and RJ, I can never remember the common name, the Pipper viesboasi, or Lepidothrix viesboasi, the yellow has been shown it's a hybrid origin between 2 adjacent species that have different colored crowns.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and it's in a
like
very,
the Spanish
very
sparrow. It's the Italian sparrow that's a hybrid origin.
Yeah.
So Peter, how often are you traveling now that you're not working on the road all the time? Are you still dedicating just as much time to getting out?
There was a funny thing happened back in 2022. My wife and I started building a house on the eastern shore of Maryland. It was on a piece of land that we had purchased, now 15 years ago. And this is Kimberly's dream, and so much of our life together has been sort of my dream, going around birding and living in different countries. And we spent 2 years building the house on the eastern shore, and it finished last May. So I had sort of cleared the decks for travel for 6 or 7 months so that we could move in and do all that. As it turned out, largely because of the COVID problems with the lockdown and the cost of building materials and things, the cost skyrocketed, and we could have lived there, but it would have taken so much of our resources that we wouldn't have been able to travel as much as we wanted. And we decided at the end that we were going to sell it before we moved in. And we didn't make a profit on it, but we got most of our money back. But now we can travel. And the other thing is, last November, I developed something called a macular hole in my left eye. So I had eye surgery in November. I had knee surgery for a partial knee replacement in February. So we've been doing a lot of, between the house and some health things, we have not been doing that much travel. Although we did in January go to Australia for 3 weeks. One of the things I like to do now is to combine birds and scuba diving. Of course, now I'm listing on fish too, so, which is interesting.
Wow.
Something that Phoebe Snetzinger did before she passed away. She started counting reef fish. So anyway, we were there. I got 10 lifers in Australia, which is not too bad, sort of par for the course. I lived in Papua New Guinea and used to go to Australia regularly. And because of that, there are not a whole lot of birds, apart from grass wrens. Kind of need a lot of grass wrens.
It's funny. I feel like with what you do, you need your eyes and your knees. So it's kind of like you're in prep mode right now.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was really quite scared about the macular hole. The maculum is the part of the eye that is like dead center. So it's the most acute part. And when you're looking at a small bird up in a tree, that is the thing that doesn't work. And the surgery was very successful. And one of the downsides of the surgery, no, not downside, one of the after effects is that it creates a cataract in the eye. So I had cataract surgery in March, and now I have perfect vision in both eyes. So no more glasses, I have reading glasses I need, but it really, in the end, it turned out great. And it was funny because last night at the event at the Oregon Ridge Nature Center, there was a robin sitting up, maybe 60, 70 meters away, and I was sort of looking at it with my bad eye and trying to see if I could get the robin in the point where there's no sight. And there is a tiny little one, but it's almost imperceptible now. It's very, very hard to get something small enough that it disappears. So I'm very, very happy.
Great. That's wonderful. Yeah.
That's much too long. I hope we've got like 3 weeks to do this interview, because we haven't even started talking about birds yet. Of course, you can always edit all this stuff out.
There's a lot of interesting things about you beyond birds.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I the idea that I love that you went to Cornell thinking you were going to to get your degree in ornithology, and decided the better way to see birds was to have a different career. A career that would have you traveling all over the world. Did your family travel before you did that? Where did the travel bite you?
Where did that come from? That's an interesting part. My oldest brother saw his spark bird in Chapultepec Park in Mexico City. Because my maternal grandfather had a career mostly living and working in overseas in Latin America. He worked for some sort of an agricultural development bank. And so there was that part of it. But my mother died when I was 5. So, and I had almost no contact with my maternal grandparents shortly after she passed away. It was a sort of an odd family dynamic. But I think the real thing for me was a family moved to Baltimore named the Beasleys. It was Dr. Billy Rogers Beasley. And Dr. Beasley had recently been in Life magazine. He was the medical director of the Frontier Nursing Service, which is a midwifery school in eastern Kentucky. And the midwives there would travel around in the hollers of eastern Kentucky on horseback. And it was, this is back in the 1960s. It was like, the sort of the 19th century medicine. And Dr. Beasley was going to India in 1967 to take the birth control pill there. And he had to get, in order to qualify under Indian regulations, he had to have a degree in public health. So he came to Hopkins to get a degree in public health for 2 years. And his youngest son, Battle Beasley, was my best friend in 7th and 8th grade. And then when it came time to go to India, Battle said, I really don't want to go to India. And his father said, we can take a friend along. So I was the chosen one, and it was a really, really transitional time for me. I mean, I went from being a horrible student to a good student. I went from being sort of not antisocial, but not terribly popular, to being sort of the life of the party. And it was a crazy year. It was a crazy year. And it really, I think that affected me. That year affected me more than anything, because I was living overseas. And Dr. Beasley was a great guy. There's a hospital not too far from where we live called Softer John Government Hospital. We would volunteer there on Saturday mornings, cleaning syringes and needles.
Oh, goodness.
Actually getting needles that had been in somebody's body and cleaning them out and autoclaving them to be put into somebody else's body, if you can imagine something like that. And these little, 14-year-old kids are handling these sharp needles. We had no protection or anything. I mean, it's a wonder we all didn't get hepatitis or AIDS or something. It's nuts. But that's the kind of guy that Dr. Beasley was, and he was a very committed individual, and a lot of the things that we did were very cultural and very, very growing. I mean, we did a lot of things that sort of put us outside of our 14-year-old kid doesn't want to spend Saturday morning cleaning syringes in a government hospital, I can tell you that. But we did, and we're better for it.
And do you remember some of the birds from there?
Oh, absolutely. I got 155 birds in 10 months. 145 of them were new. Some of the ones I remember particularly, the Saris crane, of course, was great. We saw that down at Bharatpur. Khalij pheasant, I remember seeing that at Corbett Park. And the greenback tit was also that same week. And we got to go up to Kashmir. Remember, there was a terrorist attack in Kashmir a month ago, 2-3 weeks ago, in a place called Pahalgam. I was in Pahalgam for a week in June of 1968, and for a camp out, and remember getting a nutcracker, which is now the Kashmiri nutcracker, which was probably one of the best birds I got on my year. I've never seen that bird since.
So then, Peter, once you start working, as a diplomat and kind of are traveling to different places, how much influence do you have on where you're going to go next, where you're going to be stationed? Like, did you get to kind of have like I want to go to this area to try to look for this kind of bird? And
What happens is about a year before you transfer, and I mentioned earlier that we're all sort of from 2 to 3 year stints in different places. And a year before you leave, you get a list of all the jobs that are opening up the next year. And probably 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the transfers happen during the summer, because a lot of families have children, so they transfer during the summer holidays for school. So it just makes more sense that way. So you get this list in usually like August, September, for what's coming up the next year. And you put in a wish list. And you're allowed to put in, I think you have to put in 7 and maximum of 13 different places. And you have to match up what kind of work you do, and also the level that you are. For in the government, you have GS 5, 6, 7, all different levels. So you have to get a job that's in your specialty and at your rank in a place where you want to go. And I mean, there's some places that are so bad they only have 1 year assignments. So every year they come up on the list. Places like Port-au-Prince, Haiti, Islamabad, all the places in Kabul, in Afghanistan, to rest in peace, Iraq, places like that. And what happened is that most diplomats are not really interested in going to places like Papua New Guinea and Malaysia and Brazil and Colombia. Kimberly and I went to Colombia shortly after we were married, and they actually held a job for her as she applied to get in the Foreign Service as a computer specialist, because at that point it was the most dangerous place in the world, and nobody wanted to go there. So the fact that we were happy to go to Colombia was a godsend for them. In fact, in my career, I don't want to exaggerate, but I think that I never got below my second, maybe my third choice, but usually my first or second choice, because again, I was going to places that I wanted to go to, and Papua New Guinea. How many people want to go to Papua New Guinea? But God, I had a great birding. I mean, he doesn't get any better than that. And, to live in a place for a couple of years, you get to go out and see the Euroglox dimorpha and some of these really, really great birds that you just don't bump into in a bird tour or a short trip.
Do your daughters like birds too? Were they alive when you went to Papua New Guinea?
Liking birds is a pretty broad category.
Yeah.
And my two daughters are quite different. One of them appreciates nature tremendously, and the other one is still sort of developing. I'm not quite sure what she appreciates. She spends a lot of time on video games. My eldest daughter, who lives in a small town in the mountains of Avila province in western Spain, has a small farm, a small organic farm, and she is very cognizant of nature and does appreciate birds. Neither of them care to identify birds particularly. And my wife knows a lot about birds through osmosis, but she is not really a birder at all.
Does she have her own passion the way you have birding?
No,
Okay.
she is a serial hobbyist, and she's probably had 20 different hobbies over the years. She occasionally says that she's jealous of the fact that I've been able to focus so intently and to have so much success, because she'll take up a hobby and then a couple of weeks later she'll try something else, and she does a lot of things. She's actually played musical instruments in orchestras overseas, and she does some pretty nice watercolors and stuff, but she's never really focused her, just not her personality.
Yeah.
I have enough focus to last for not only this family but the whole block, I think.
So I wanted you to talk a little bit too about sort of the evolution of the tools of the trade. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, when you started, field guides weren't what they are today, and
Sure.
certainly bird tours didn't exist. And
are any of you guys members of the American Birding Association?
so my brother is on the board now. I have,
Okay.
yeah, I used to be a member.
50 years ago, Stuart Keith wrote an article about the state of international birding. 25 years ago, Phoebe Snetzinger wrote an update to that. And just a couple of days ago, my 50-year update was just published.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
We knew Stuart
sure,
Keith. We met him in New York City. He's a really interesting guy.
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
And it's a very long article, and it talks all about sort of how birding has changed over the years and sort of my ideas of where it's going in the future. But it's night and day. It used to be an old boys club, and if a great example, when I was at Cornell, I'm a horribly competitive person, and I was sort of looking at the people who had seen 4,000 and 5,000 birds. Oh my gosh, I could never do that. But maybe what I could do is be the first person to see all the bird families. So I made a goal to see all the bird families. And as I was getting close to the end, I needed to see some birds in South America. I needed the trumpeters, the sharpbill, which is lumped, although I think it might be split out again. And the last one was the conopophages, the gnat eaters. And to get the information, I wrote to Bob Ridgely. Bob Ridgely gave me some very good information. Of course, all in typing the letters and stuff to each other. And if I had not known Bob Ridgely, seeing those birds would have been very difficult, been very different story. Of course, now several things have happened. One is that you've had this extraordinary development of local guides and local expertise. So there are very few places in the world where there are not really competent local birders that could take you out and show you the birds that you need. And I think that's probably the best and the most monumental change in the last 50 years. And a lot of that is based on eBird and other various citizen science databases that allow people to learn about bird distribution and see the fantastic photographs, even if you don't have a book. If you've got a phone, I've got, I think, 6,000 birds for Merlin on my phone right now. The information is there for anybody. There are wonderful local people to help you. I just got a message from Diego Calderon in Colombia because he's got the sooty-capped puffbird, which is one of the birds that I need to see. I need 2 puffbirds in the world. That's one of them. The other one is a chestnut-headed nunlet, and the chestnut-headed nunlet is, which I dipped years ago, is now being seen fairly easily. So I'm hoping to get both. So I'm trying to clean up the manakins and the puffbirds on this trip.
Nice.
Should be nice. You see where my mind goes on this.
I was going to
Peter,
say,
when
Peter.
You say, go ahead, RJ.
I was just going to say, how aware are you of what you still haven't seen, what you have seen? If someone rattles off a bird, do you know right away, oh yeah, I saw that at this place this year?
Let me answer that in a different way. I've often wondered if I was given a very large notebook and a pen and asked to write down every bird that I've seen, how many I could do. And I've never tried it. It would take a long time to do, or even if I sat down and typed it on a computer. I don't know. I think there are 2 sides of that. And when you have language, you have different kinds of vocabulary. You have active vocabulary and you have passive vocabulary. So if somebody says, "Have I seen Reiser's tyrannulet?" I would say, yes, I know, because I remember seeing Reiser's tyrannulet in northeastern Paraguay in 1993. And the reason I remember it is that I've seen Reiser's tyrannulet twice, and both times I got botflies. So Reiser's tyrannulet and botflies have some sort of an ecological harmony that I don't understand. So anyway, but if I were writing, if I had to just come up with a list of all the birds, and I'm going through the tyrannulets, I'm not sure I would have remembered every single one of them. Sort of the active vocabulary versus the passive. If somebody says, have you seen the Chirigabete emerald? I'd say, no, I haven't been out to the Chirigabete mountains yet to see it. So the ones I haven't seen are probably more prominent in my mind than the ones I have seen, because there's just so many. I mean, 10,000 birds is a lot. But at the other hand, if I'm going through a book, going back to this active passive thing, if I see a list of them, I could probably come down to maybe 99.9% correct in which ones I've seen, which ones I haven't. Maybe even more, maybe 99.99.
And then you get to things like Rufous antpitta, and it may be a little harder to deal with the fact that it was split into 16 species.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no, within 5 months, I had gone down to South America and gotten all the ones that had been split out that I hadn't seen.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's so cool.
Including the Ayacucho one, which is in a very dicey area. And the Puno, I think I was only the second person to see a Puno antpitta, which is a fantastic thing. It's just on the Bolivian-Peruvian border. But it turns out if you go to the right spot, it's not that hard, but nobody had ever gone down there because it wasn't considered a species. I'm a big fan of splitting, not only to get me more species, which is kind of obvious, But in terms of conservation, once a bird is a species, and it goes for any organism, then people are more aware of it. People will seek it out. You'll learn more about where it lives and how it lives. And if there are conservation issues, they'll become known much more likely. And it's another tick.
All right, along those lines. So have you seen Willard's City Boo Boo?
Of course.
There you go. We did that bird early on.
Wow.
When I was in, I was a Peace Corps. Well, you sort of skip from Cornell to Foreign Service. I spent 2 years in the Peace Corps, and it was the luckiest thing ever. I was in a tiny little village in the eastern part of the Congo, just east of the Ituri Forest, just northwest of the Ruwenzori Mountains, and just southwest of Lake Albert. So I was in the most amazing sort of biodiverse part of the world. I mean, one of the really amazing places. Sadly, as a volunteer, I didn't have any way of getting around except for hitchhiking, which didn't work because there weren't any cars on the road. But anyway, that's another story. Even though I'd been in that part of the world, I'd never been to Uganda. I'd overflown it, but never been there. So when I was in Afghanistan early 2014, I had a break, a 3-week break, and met Kimberly, and we went to Uganda for 3 weeks. And I was researching the Willard's Boo Boo, and in the description of the paper that described it, there was an acknowledgement for one of the local guides that had helped
Alfred.
So I reached out to him and made sure and asked him if he would take us around. So having him as our guide, I knew I had a pretty good chance of getting the bird.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's so cool.
Peter, I'd read or maybe listened to earlier that you said one of the important things about having a local guide is if you're going into a contentious area, they can kind of steer you correctly. And I was wondering, have you ever been in a sticky situation with birding?
Not really. I've never. I mean, I've been in some sticky situations. I almost got killed by a Cape buffalo once. I was shipwrecked in the Amazon, and miraculously was saved by just extraordinarily good luck. I got lost on Columbangra Island and the Solomon Islands, and spent a night up in the forest with deadly centipedes. And one of the weird things about the Solomon Islands, this is back in the early 1980s, there were Japanese soldiers that were still in the Solomon Islands that didn't know the war had ended. And I was concerned that one of these guys would find me and kill me.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Seriously, there was actually
That's a
a
sticky
group
situation.
from Japan that came down while I was in the Solomon Islands looking for these guys and trying to find them to take them back to Japan and tell them that the war was over.
Oh my
Oh
So
my
can you
gosh.
imagine having
No.
that as there are a lot of things to be afraid of, but being afraid of somebody that doesn't know that a war had ended 40 years earlier.
That's crazy.
You can't make this
Oh
stuff
my
up.
gosh.
Yeah, seriously.
Anyway,
Oh my gosh.
and the other thing is we lived in Bogota, which at the time was a very dangerous place. I mean, extremely. When we would go to work, we would go in an armored vehicle that had a chase car full of gun-toting, big, strong men, bodyguards, and every day we'd get picked up at a different time between 6:30 and 9:30. Every time we went on a different route in a different kind of car. And this is all done, actually Kimberly ran this in the computer because she was the computer systems manager for the embassy. And on Friday we'd get a printout of our pickup times and which car was picking us up. And it was crazy. If you would go shopping, you say, okay, last week we went to Karuya on Septima. Next week we'll go to another store on another place. Or we're going to church. We went to church. We went to the early service last week. We'll go to the late service, and we'll, instead of going this way, we'll go and circuitous way. Everything you did, you had to say, am I setting myself up? Can somebody predict where I'm going to be and kill me? And we did that for 2 years.
Wow. And how are you able to bird while you're doing all that?
Amazing. I have had such unbearably good luck in my life. I mean, it's crazy. The security people in the Department of State run the place. And the vast majority of security people that I've known have one job, and that's to keep people safe and to keep the secrets of the United States safe. They have no interest in whether I get to go bird watching or whether I'm having fun. That is not on their to-do list. But the one time that I needed somebody who was thoughtful and mature and reasonable, it was in Bogota.
Yeah.
And this guy, his last name was Williams, I've forgotten his first name. If I could give him data, that I say, okay, yeah, there's the Bahia Solano, we were talking about the mannequin before this. Bahia Solano is right in the middle of one of the worst parts of the world. It's still a difficult area. They still traffic cocaine from Buenaventura on the west coast of Colombia. But I had some contacts in Bahia Solano, and he let me go to Bahia Solano, and he arranged, just wait till you hear how I got to Bahia Solano. I flew from Bogota to the international airport in Medellin in the late 1980s when Pablo Escobar was running Medellin. Police escort picked me up at the airport, put me into a safe room. They got a helicopter. They put me on the helicopter. They flew me by helicopter to the domestic airport in downtown Medellin. And then I got a little tiny plane to go from the domestic airport in Medellin off to Bahia Solano. I went bird watching for the weekend and came back and did the same thing at the domestic airport, helicopter, international airport, and then I flew back to Bogota. They arranged all that for me.
That's amazing.
It was extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary.
Did you
if
have
I
a
ever see
gun
him,
with your...
I'm going to give him a big kiss.
Yeah, he's serious. Did you carry a gun with your binoculars?
No, I've never carried a gun. Though, before we went to Colombia, we did a personal security course. And we learned to shoot all sorts of guns, from shotguns and machine guns and Uzis and handguns. We also learned to drive offensively. If you have if there's a car blocking the way, how to ram through the car and escape. We did anti-surveillance training, all these things. And in fact, my wife Kimberly, like you saw her a second ago, she came down the stairs. Kimberly won. We had a competition at the end. There were like 20 students. She won as the best shooter. And the shooter, this isn't your uncle's shooting range. The trainers chased us around the building 3 or 4 times, screaming and yelling at us. So you're all discombobulated and you're exhausted, and you go into the building and they put you down and tie you up, and next to you on the floor is a disassembled handgun.
Oh.
And the guy leaves the room for a minute, and you have to untie yourself, and it's not that hard. And then you have to, before the guy comes back in, you have to assemble the gun, and then turn around, and they have one of these targets that has the good guys and the bad guys. So you have to shoot the bad guys before the guy comes in, and then you shoot them. So anyway, I mean, the whole thing is just, it was nuts.
So it sounds like birding didn't help you there. In other words,
no, it's very, apart from the constant pressure of knowing that there could be people trying to kill you, or just as important is that somebody's trying to kill somebody else and you happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. We heard several explosions, maybe 5 or 6 explosions in the 2 years that we were there, including a massive explosion. They tried the DAS, Departamento Administrativo de Seguridad, which is sort of the FBI equivalent. Their headquarters was bombed, and fortunately it didn't, the entire building didn't go down, but hundreds of people were killed. And it was, I don't know, maybe 5 miles from the embassy, and the whole embassy shook when that bomb went off. It was crazy.
Awful. So you
Anyway,
clearly,
we were going to talk about birds.
yeah. Now I'm getting back to birds. You clearly grew up.
We could always do another one later and talk about. We could talk about the
Yeah.
Cundinamarca antpitta all day.
There we go.
Oh yeah. Oh, cool. So you clearly grew up interested in listing birds and in counting them, like almost like little kid
Yes,
joy.
definitely.
But at some point, it had to have translated into not just wanting to see things, but wanting to know more about them. So how did that transition occur? And so if you see something now that you didn't know about, do you automatically go look things up about birds, or do you ever go to the museums and ask to see them close up before you actually go somewhere?
Nowadays, I don't. I have in the past, but 40 years ago, Bruce Beeler was a good friend of mine, and he let me in the Smithsonian. When I was at Cornell, one of the jobs I had was as a curation assistant at the vertebrate collection. So I made study skins and sorted out things in the museum. So I'm very comfortable in a museum setting. But very few times where I've needed to go in and look at specimens. Or I remember seeing a rare thrush in Southeast Asia. So I went and looked at the skins to be able to see what I had seen. But there are sort of stories from like the 1970s where somebody going off to South America would go and study all the skins and try to figure out how to tell all the triangulates and things like that. I never did that to that extent. Although I must say, Hank and I went to Ecuador in 1973, I think it was, and our field guide was Deshaunessy's Birds of South America, with these little tiny, just like 379, but lighter on the back and shorter tailed or something. It was very interesting. I remember vividly we were in southwestern Ecuador in the dry country, and we had seen a necklace spinetail, and we were going through all the spine. We knew it was a spinetail. We were going through all the descriptions of the spinetails, and we finally get to the necklace spinetail description. It like popped off the screen. Here it is. That it's an endemic in the southwest Ecuador. So it was a really neat moment to have something so obvious and so clear when identifying things was just such a challenge, considering the information that we had.
That's what you took, John, right?
Yep. And we went down the Cali Buenaventura Road sometime around then, and I've always wondered how many things we misidentified.
Yeah, my brother and I were in Ecuador for, I think it was 8 days, just about a week, maybe a little more, and saw 169 species.
Oh, wow.
So it gives you an idea. I mean, you can get 169 species in a morning in a lot of places now in Ecuador. So, yeah, no, it's changed dramatically. But to answer your question, Shannon, I think I've always had a curiosity about birds. It's sort of the biology of birds, their behavior. Of course, taxonomy has always been interesting because as a lister, it's sort of the basic. And June 10th, it's coming soon. You all know what that is?
No, what's June 10th?
John, you know what June 10th is, don't you?
No, what is June 10th?
June 10th. Oh, my God. Don't know.
Oh, no. We're embarrassed.
Is it?
You know what the WAGAC is? Working Group on Avian Checklists.
Oh, brother.
They are promulgating the new AVI list
Yeah.
on June 10th.
That's
Don't get me started.
Harmony will finally be with us.
No.
no, it won't.
The opposite? Yeah, the opposite of harmony.
For a week until they have time to go through it.
Yeah. There's no
I-
harmony that ever comes from the actions of that committee. Never.
Well,
ever.
you'll probably, Peter, you'll probably appreciate. I mean, my feeling is that now that Cornell, once they bought the birds of the world data, basically became the overall arbiter of all of this, which is fine.
Yeah. Do you really you don't think that that the David Donskers and the Lee Chrysalises of the world are marginalized?
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, and all right. but so Shannon and I we're willing to accept the idea that there might be 20,000 species of birds. So there's a lot of work.
Firmly in my brain, and it's not in my heart because I have evidence, I firmly believe there's at least 20,000 species of birds.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me at all. As long as they all are reproductively isolated, then
oh no, we don't. Do we have to do
fine,
that?
Fine with me.
This is going to go off the rails.
Yeah. I don't
Peter,
know.
can you tell us? I want to get us back on the rails. Peter, can you tell us a little bit about the bird you discovered?
Oh my goodness, it's a great bird. It's it's. I remember my wife when our first daughter was born. I have a picture of it somewhere. When my first daughter was born, my wife told somebody, said, everybody says that their child is beautiful, but my child really is beautiful. And when my eldest daughter came out of the birth canal, it was not a pretty sight. And it took my wife something like 30 years to realize that. And now she remembers having told people how beautiful her baby was, when really her baby looked like it had been run over by a tractor. And it really is funny. So I obviously cannot have a fair assessment of the Cundinamarca Growleria Kaestneri, since it has my name. But finding the bird was an extraordinary experience, and part of it was, if you sort of compare this with Bob Ridgely finding the Hokotoko ant pitta, which is sort of two big Growleria discoveries that happened around the same time. Bob heard the call, recorded it, played it, and the bird popped up. I heard the call, and I recorded it, and I played it, and it got a little bit closer, and I recorded a little better, and I recorded it. And after about 40 minutes, 40, it started calling from the other side of the road. So I crawled up into the cloud forest, into a tiny little clearing, and played it again, and eventually the bird popped up on a log, and I saw it and realized. And it was because and it was weird, because I am not a great ear birder. I think that, I don't know, there was something that was driving me to make sure I saw that bird, even though I didn't know that it had to be new. I just knew it was something I didn't know. And it could have been a Colombian bird that the call I didn't know. It wasn't like, Ted Parker would say, oh yeah, well, that was, or Paul Koopmans heard an Elenia and said, oh, that's a different species. He knew that was different. That's not me. But for some reason, I stuck with it for 45 minutes and eventually saw the bird. And that initial encounter is in eBird. I put it on an eBird checklist, and you actually can hear my very. I consider myself a scientist at heart, and it's a very non-emotional description of the bird. I'm not saying, oh wow, another. It was just the bird. It has streaking on the breast and it's gray on brown on the back. It was a very sort of just the facts, ma'am, kind of a description. But it's in eBird now, which is kind of fun.
We watched a YouTube video today, Peter, of you going back and seeing
I was just
same
going to
site.
remember that. I was just going to mention that. Going back and seeing it after 30-some years was, I think, even more emotional than discovering it in the first place. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing when that bird popped up at the feeder in the Sendero Herrera. It was
so there's
incredible.
another. It's changed dramatically. with the,
Yes.
you were mentioning the value of
Absolutely.
and what's happened, Amanda and RJ, is that the locals have realized that you can feed mealworms, and the ant pittas will literally come out. So these birds that you can spend, I mean, you can spend hours listening to a bird call close to you and never get a look at it. Now suddenly come out in these lodges across the Andes. It's just incredible.
Yep. And they're
Oh,
starting
awesome.
to feed tapaculos now. It's crazy.
Not
Well,
that it would help
Tinamous.
identify them once they
Yeah,
kick
I'm going to
out.
say seeing them doesn't help you. You can ask it for a bit of DNA and you'll be able to tell what it is. But
Let's see
Maybe.
what valley are we in?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And the whole feeding, which started the guy named Angel Paz in western Mexico, Ecuador, gosh, must be almost 25 years ago now. Really revolutionized it. And when I was in Colombia back in 1988 to 90, I must have seen, I don't know, almost 10 different species of ant pittas, but all of them were the hard way. And now people can go, and Hank and I were there. I think we got 19 species of ant pittas
Wow.
in 2 weeks
Whoa.
in Colombia a couple of years ago. And it's just, we taped in 3 of them, I think, 4 of them. And so I'm still pretty good at taping. I remember we were down in the lowlands of western Colombia. Gosh, what's the name of that place? San Cipriano. And there are 2 ant pittas there. I'd seen both of them before years ago, the streak-breasted and the thicket ant pitta. And the thicket ant pitta, nobody ever sees it. And the local guide says, oh, nobody ever sees the thicket ant pitta. I said, sounds like a challenge to me. So those guys went, my brother and the local guide went ahead, and I went down, crawled around inside the bushes. And after about 20 minutes, I got a great look at it, got a nice photograph of it. And I showed the local guide the photo, and he couldn't believe it. So it's nice to know I still have some of the old skills left, but you need to be able to, spend time inside the thicket, getting massacred by bugs and mosquitoes and everything else. And
So have you basically taught yourself to use the camera?
what do you mean?
Just in terms of, you take a lot of photographs of things that are hard to photograph. I always say,
Yeah,
I just
funny you should mention that. I just got a new camera. This is my latest camera I just got for Father's Day come birthday. I haven't used it yet, but I don't take pictures seriously. I take record shots, and the record shots for me are as much anything because I have the honor and the ability to go to places and see birds that are not often seen. So, very often the birds that I am photographing have been photographed either never or very, very few times. At one point, I came back from a trip to Micronesia, and I think 15 birds in the eBird landing pages in eBird, 15 of those species were my photographs.
Oh.
Now more people have gone to some of those islands and seen some of the birds. I still have about 10 or 12 birds that my photo is the best one in eBird, which is a pretty low bar.
So what's the most important bird for you next? What is it that you want to see next?
That's a good question. I mean, my dream bird, which I probably will never see, is Afropavo congensis, the Congo peacock.
I don't believe that. I think
You
actually,
don't believe
believe
what?
what?
I don't believe
that I want to see it, or
no,
that I'll never have
I'll bet you
never
see
have a
it.
chance.
I'll bet you'll see it. That's
It's a chance. That's a chance.
I mean, this is the only African relative of the peacocks, and it's in the eastern part of the Congo Basin. And I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I wonder how far you were in the Peace Corps from it.
I was very close.
Yeah.
I was very close to it. In fact, gosh, who was it? I think it's George Plimpton and who's it that the snow leopard?
Yeah, George Schaller. Not Peter Matheson.
Peter Matheson.
Yeah.
Matheson and Plimpton and a couple of other people, Don Turner and maybe Stuart Keith. Those guys were trying to find Africa's best birds in the 1970s, the mid-1970s. And they had gone to a place called Kamisuga, I think it was, which is an eastern part of Congo. Kamisuga. And they had gone into the forest and they'd heard the bird but not seen it. So at the end of my Peace Corps time in August of 1978, I had been contacted by Joel Abramson from Bird Bonanzas to lead a bird tour in eastern Congo. The one and only bird tour. It happened in 1978. And we had planned to go to that village. And what we were going to do is we were going to hike in, a day hike where they heard it, and then camp there, and then go out and hopefully see the bird. And everything was organized. And I had a friend in eastern Congo. There are no facilities there, so everything has to be done by knowing somebody. And I knew a friend who had an airplane, and the pilot overflew the airstrip at Kamituga, and a small aircraft had landed there the week before, had hit the mud and flipped over and was upside down in the middle of the runway.
Oh my gosh.
And he said we couldn't go. So we canceled the trip at the last minute. So that's as close as I've ever come to the Congo peacock. And there have been 2 bird quest tours there that have seen birds roosting. And with the new infrared cameras, I think seeing it wouldn't be that hard. The biggest problem is just getting there and going to a safe area. Another amazing coincidence, I was a volunteer in a tiny town called Nyankunde, which is, again, southwest of Lake Albert, northwest of Rio Nzores. And the woman who preceded me in that little village was also a biologist, and she married a guy who is studying, God, what is he studying? Okapis or something. And she has spent her whole life living in the Ituri forest.
Therese Hart?
Teresa, yeah.
Yeah, Teresa Hart. Teresa and John.
Teresa.
Yep, I know.
Teresa was the Peace Corps volunteer who was in my village. And she had a camera trap, which I think the photo is in eBird, a color camera trap of Afro Pavo. So yeah, no, I haven't forgotten. Someday it may happen. And it's funny because there's a guy named Adam Riley in South Africa who really wants to see the bird too. And at one point we were trying to sort of put together something through Teresa, but hasn't happened yet. Someday. But that's probably the number one. On this trip, I'm doing a very interesting trip. There's a guy in Brazil named Luis Moraes who has broken the code on ground cuckoos, neomorphous, and he sees them. I mean, it's incredible. This guy is like a ground cuckoo whisperer. And I'm planning to do an article on seeing ground cuckoos for Birding Magazine next year. And I'm going out with Luis to see the scaled ground cuckoo, which is one of the hardest ground cuckoos to get. And very few people have ever seen it. And it happens to be right near the place where this opal-crowned, this Villa Boassi manakin lives. So we're going to spend almost a week or 4 days looking for the manakin and the ground cuckoo.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool.
That should be
That'll
fun.
be great.
Well, Peter, I want to be cautious of your time. Thank you so much for spending
I've got all
an
the
hour
time
with
in
us.
the world. And
This
again,
has been-
if
this
you
has
want
been so much
to
fun.
do something more focused on a bird, I'd be more than happy. One of the great things about the ant pitta is that when I went back in 2022, I realized that we needed to help save it, and came back and made a contact through the American Bird Conservancy. And there now is a wonderful reserve that has been put up. And the hot spot for that, the eBird hotspot for that reserve, last I checked, was the most popular location in all of Cundinamarca.
Oh, cool.
Because everybody's
cool.
going to see my ant pitta.
That's awesome.
That's
incredible.
awesome.
Okay, well,
That's
I'm
awesome.
gonna be selfish then. What's your favorite kingfisher?
Oh, my favorite kingfisher. Ooh, maybe the buff-breasted paradise kingfisher from New Britain.
Mm.
The shovel-billed kingfisher is another really nice one.
Yeah.
I need the blue and black. I've heard it a couple times, but never seen the blue and black kingfisher. It's now easy near Sorong in Irian Jaya or West Papua. Dwarf kingfisher is a nice one. We used to get pygmy kingfishers in our garden in eastern Congo when I was a Peace Corps volunteer. It's a very cute little bird. Sort of that violet or sort of pale purple wash on the sides of the cheeks. It's a very pretty little bird.
I think kingfishers are amazing. We just recorded a whole bunch of kingfisher episodes with one of the graduate students who started working on them a while ago. Her name is Jenna McCullough. She was a graduate student at New Mexico, but now she's a postdoc and about to go to California to have another postdoc. And
fun, neat. Yeah, when was it? It must have been 1983. I was living in Papua New Guinea, and a guy named Phil Mayer discovered the plains wanderer in a pasture, a sort of degraded pasture north of Melbourne, Australia. And since I was trying to be the first person to see all the bird families, I immediately went down. And when I got down there, Charles Sibley was down there trying to catch one
for DNA hybridization.
Inventory some of its tissues. And I spent an evening with him. And it's 83. This would have been 7 years. Yeah, 76, 83. 7 years after I'd graduated. So it's still the transition from the mindset of being an ornithologist and being a diplomat was sort of still very fresh in my mind. And, talking to him about some of the interesting things he was doing. And if I had been an ornithologist, I probably would have gone to Yale, because I have a particular interest in sort of the biochemical basis for evolution, and of course back in the early 1970s that was a real nascent field, and it's developed and evolved so much over time. But that's probably what I would have done, and spending an evening with him was a lot of fun, and in the end I think I'm pretty sure I made the right decision. But I start thinking about studying things and getting to know them and learning novel things and discovering, I don't want to say truths, but discovering new things about the world is something that harmonizes a lot with my personality. It's something that
that's why I always tell
maybe I can still do
people.
it.
I always tell people we have the best jobs in the world. When our son was little, he said, "Mommy, what grade are you in?" And I counted it up. It was like grade 22 or some ridiculous number like that. And he goes, "Well, I'll never be a scientist." And I'm like, "No, Pete, I have the best job in the world. I get to go to work every day and I get to learn things. Not only do I learn things I didn't know, I get to learn things nobody knew." I mean, that's just the idea that we use specimens collected 150 years ago and we can read their entire genomes now. I mean, that's magic.
It is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Thank God for foot pads.
Exactly. And the development of technologies, frankly, and the Human Genome Project, because if it weren't for that, the technology wouldn't trickle down to people like us who do
to
do these kinds of things. But science is magic.
It truly is. It truly is. And I don't want to get too political, but the magic of science sometimes ebbs and wanes a little bit in the popular understanding.
It does. It's true. But, there's one thing that none of that politics can take away, which is the thrill of discovery.
Very true.
Right? I mean, they can challenge funding. They can do all these other things. They can make it really hard, but the end is I throw that away, because if I live in that world, it's too negative. But I can live in the world where I can go learn something new about kingfishers, or in the context of this podcast, serially learn things about birds and then tell people about it.
Super. Well, RJ, if you're trying to get rid of me,
No.
No.
I'm retired. I don't have a job, so
We'd
I'll-
love to have you back on, Peter.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd be very happy to.
I'd love to.
So I would put the mannequin you're going to go see near the top
Yeah.
of my list. So I'd have you come back and
Yeah.
talk about that.
Do a full episode on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be great. All it's of the two birds that we're looking for in those 4 days. That the mannequin is pretty much staked out. You just go there and see it.
To think
the
that
ground cuckoo.
20 years ago, nobody would think that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many birds that are like that. They were thought to be mythical. And in reading and doing this update, the 50-year update for Birding Magazine, Stuart Keith said, nobody's ever, you just can't see a Rufus antpitta or a violaceous quail dove or a Cinereus tinamou. Yes, you can. I've seen all the Rufus antpittas, and some of them are hard. The Ayacucho and the Puno are not being fed. There are several of them that are not being fed. But if you go there and you put in the time and have a lot of patience, you can see these birds.
That bird is probably one of the birds I've seen that I didn't know how good of a bird it was, but I was violent, Rufus antpitta, and I was violently altitude sick in Ecuador, like so terrible. Everybody else went ahead of me, and I was throwing up across the side of the trail, and I was just laying there feeling so sorry for myself. And I looked up, and there was a whole family of them just walking
wow.
a few inches from my face. So,
I bet I know what trail you were on. I think I've seen the same antpittas.
That's awesome.
and everybody comes back down to see if I'm alive, and I'm like, "Look, guess what I saw?" And they're like, "You did not." I'm like, "No, I did. I really did."
That's awesome. So, Peter, just
wonderful.
for our research in preparation, is it the white bib mannequin and then the opal something mannequin you're
Opal
trying
crown,
to
I think it's opal crowned and golden crowned.
Golden
yeah.
crowned.
say? Oh, and golden
Yeah.
crowned. Okay.
Villa Boise.
We'll send you some research papers.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
You can always count on us.
That's right. And then if I come back, I promise I won't mention anything about eBird
Why?
or the Waguk.
No, I think eBird is probably one of the greatest things that's ever happened to birds in the history of humankind. Actually,
It is pretty good. It is pretty good.
Yeah,
They're the 500-pound gorilla.
Oh,
it's true.
but
It's true.
but it's got a bunch of smart people running it, and they've evolved over time. And no, I think it's tremendous. And again, just a absolutely awesome source of documented data in a lot of ways. So, no, it's
I
great.
mean, and even that you can send people who don't know very much about birds to that site and tell them that their sightings matter, whether that's a house sparrow that they saw in their backyard or a cardinal or whatever. It's all contributing to science. It's magic to people. The idea that your walk to and from school is science. Or
Yeah, it's fantastic. It was last summer. I was doing a bike trip with my wife and some of her friends in northern Michigan, and we were on a rail to trail, and we were riding along, and there was a elderly woman standing there, and she had her phone up in the air, and she had like 3 small children, clearly her grandchildren, were sitting there next to her. So I stopped the car and I said, "Are you using Merlin?" She said, "I am." She says, "Look at this. There's an indigo bunting and a scarlet tanager and a rose-breasted grosbeak," because Merlin has a little little picture of each bird.
Yeah.
And she had not seen any of these birds. She had not even heard any of these birds. But just the fact that she was in the presence of these fantastic birds, and the phone was telling her that these birds were in her realm, in her little bit of the world at that moment, was incredible. She was just ecstatic, and the kids were all excited. And it's just amazing that something like that could happen. You know, when you think of when I was birding with my 7x35 Tasco binoculars, if you didn't see the bird, you really pretty much didn't know what was going on. And now people are using their telephones to have these amazing emotional interactions with the world around them. It's fantastic.
It is.
I mean,
That is
little things
awesome.
like that change the world because
They
they
do.
scale,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
for me, that's where the hope comes from, is that if people are outside, they're getting outside medicine by breathing air that, they're
Except for the
experiencing.
Canadian wildfire air.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I actually had a friend. I'm Canadian. I grew up in a small
I
town.
know.
in
I
British
said that
Columbia.
on purpose.
And I had a friend text me this morning saying, "Can't you please tell your people to get rid of the smoke that's filling my air?" I'm like, "No, because Canadians don't care about Americans anymore. You want the smoke, you can have it. Whatever. We're not doing that anymore. We spent too much time carrying what you think. We're on our own now."
So, Peter, when do you go to Australia?
I went to Australia in January.
Oh, you wait. So, when's your next trip? When you're
My next trip. I'm leaving. What's today's Wednesday? I'm leaving tomorrow.
Oh,
I'm going to Ithaca, New York, where I'm going to speak at my 50th college
Oh.
reunion.
how exciting.
And I'm
cool.
planning to drop by the lab to say hi. I only know one person there, a woman, Jessie Williamson, who's a
Yeah.
postdoc
Oh.
who's
Yep.
just finishing up there.
Yeah, we know Jesse.
So I'll have lunch with her and go. Since Fitz left, Fitz was basically the only person I knew there in the last couple of years. But so anyway, I'll go and make some new friends.
nice.
And then that's for the weekend. And then I'm back for a week. And on the 15th of June, I'm going to Namibia for 3 weeks. And back 5th, I think, of July. And then I'm home for a couple of weeks. And then the 24th of July, I'm going to Mongolia
Oh, wow.
for 2.5 weeks. And then I'm back for a couple of weeks. And I'm going to see my daughter in Spain for a couple of weeks. I'm
Oh,
back for
cool.
a couple of weeks. And then I'm going the 25th of September. I'm flying to Chile for 3 weeks with my wife, and then she comes home. In Chile, we're going to Easter Island, which I did. I
Oh.
never wanted to go
Have
to.
you been there?
No, I've never wanted to go there because there weren't any endemic
Right.
birds. But it turns
Yeah.
out they've got some. They've
Yeah.
got like 4 species of petrels there, shearwaters, that breed there that would be new for me. So I'm very excited about that. And also, it's one of these sort of cultural bucket list places.
Right.
We're also going to Selkirk Island, which is a place nobody ever goes to that has an endemic Rayadito on it, and Robinson Crusoe
So
Island.
the Juan Fernandez.
And,
Hit
right,
with a
so there are
fire
a
crown.
couple of endemic birds there, a tit tyrant and a hummingbird, so 3 endemic land birds and some more seabirds, some more pterodroma petrels. And then I'm going up to northern Chile to clean up some things I need. There's a wood star and a cronebill up there. And Markham storm petrel, I dipped that. Jesse Williamson and I did a pelagic trip off of southern Peru, and we missed the Markham storm petrel, so I need to go back and get that. Then Kimberly goes home, and I'm going to Bolivia, where I'm speaking at the South American Bird Fair at the in middle of October. And then I'm going to Colombia the end of October, and I'm doing a 10-day trip around Bolivia to do a cleanup. I went there with Paul Koopmans years ago. So I'm going to Bolivia, then to Colombia for about a week to present at the Quindío Bird Fair. And then I'm flying from Colombia to Brazil to meet my brother, and we'll have a week together birding in Pará, in eastern Amazon part of Brazil. And then after he leaves, I'm going to hook up with Luis Moraes, and we're going to go and see if we can find golden parrot or golden parakeet and 2 really rare birds.
Why do you have a house?
It's for my cat.
Because your cat. Oh.
Sonny gets
That's
fed at
very
about
sweet.
6:30, so he's sitting down in front of the feeder,
Oh.
waiting for
He's He's ready.
Yes, he sits there for about an hour in the morning and about an hour in the evening. He's not a very good timekeeper.
That is so cute. Oh my gosh. Oh man, you have a busy year coming up.
Yeah, I'm sort of making up because, again, for most of last year, after I got back from the Philippines, we were planning to move into the new house and all that. And so it's been a while since I've done any serious sort of hardcore birding. This big trip to South America should get between 45 and 50 lifers.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I wouldn't have said that was
Amazing.
possible
But-
anymore.
But
Yeah.
I'm expecting to lose 45 or 50 birds on June 10th when
Are you
the
really?
Levy list comes out.
Oh, for real?
Oh,
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
about 6 months ago, David Donsker said that there are about 90 lumps that might be coming in the
Oh wow.
see, because my 10,048 is an IOC list. My eBird list is 9,948, exactly 100 birds below. So assuming that the two lists are going to meet somewhere in the middle,
So-
depends on where that middle is.
So what you're saying is,
I'm thinking
it sounds like you can go over 10,000 multiple times here in the coming years.
What an opportunity! Maybe not multiple times, but certainly I think that doing it twice could be a real possibility.
Wow.
A
wow.
real possibility, and I'm
Wow.
looking forward to it. If I lose 55 birds next Tuesday, I'm not going to cry. I'll just start planning how I'm going to get to 10,000.
You'll get them.
Yeah.
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 Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so glad we got to talk to you.
Oh sure, yeah.
Yeah.
No, the numbers. I am very much a rules guy, and back in the day, people would go out on a bird tour, and the guides always say, "Oh, this one's a split," or "This one's a split," and people come back from bird tours and have all these crazy birds on their list. I go by whatever the list is. For a long time, back in the early '70s, there were 3 lists. One of them was a guy named Buck Edwards down at Sweetbriar College in Virginia. Did one of the very first ones, a tiny little coded 8,600 birds, and a tiny little book like that. And about the same time, '74, the American Museum of Natural History did a list that was for museums, and it was a crazy list. It just had the Latin names of each bird, and I loved it. That was my list. And the reason I loved it is it had a reference in the back, and every bird had a reference. Most of them were the Peters list. And then if it was different from the Peters list, then it would say, for example, I remember Hall's babbler was described after the Peters list, and it actually had the BBOC citation for when and where that bird was described. I love that. I love the accountability. I love the fact that every single bird was listed and every bird was accounted for. So I used the American Museum of Natural History list for a long, long time. I didn't like the Clements list because it wasn't authoritative. It wasn't, it was just some guy sort of making it up.
Well, that's about to happen on the 10th. A bunch of
June
guys
10th.
making it up.
Well, see, but no, there's a difference between a guy making it up and a bunch of guys making it up.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's
One
true.
is a singular and one is plural.
There we go.
Yeah. Collusion is powerful, though.
True. We've all been on committees.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh-oh, I feel like we
But
need to
again,
end
it's
this before we
it's
go off
better
the
than
rails
one
again.
person making it up.
Because
It's sort of like, making up health policy when one person who spends a lot of time looking at YouTube videos
yes, it does.
deciding what is good and bad for the public health.
Right.
Well-
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I can tell you
Not
that
to mention any names.
I've been asked to marry a whole bunch of people if it were illegal in Canada and take them across the border so they can get vaccinations next year.
I was just in Canada a couple weeks ago and had a wonderful time. We're out in the Okanagan Valley.
Oh,
Delightful people out there. Everybody was very, very nice to us.
I have a lot of
and the-
family that lives there.
And the birds in the Okanagan are wonderful. I had been out there years ago in the late 1980s I was in Brazil. I was also in Vancouver doing concert. We were installing visa software in embassies and consulates around the world.
You
And
went
I had
with
a
Dick
weekend
Cannings, right? Dick Cannings.
Cannings, that's him. Yes,
Yeah.
Dick Cannings.
I worked for him a super long time ago, making.
What a gem of a human being he is.
Yeah, he and his brother were
I
always.
I hope you haven't had any bad run-ins with him.
No, I
was
worked on
extraordinarily impressed.
I worked on the breeding bird atlas of birds of British Columbia when I was a kid.
Right.
Drawing maps, and they have the museum in Victoria has a giant card catalog of breeding birds, nests that are described, and so I went through the nest collections to look at timing and places of breeding birds and
fun. I did that as a kid, sending nest records and looking. We used to have a long stick with a little mirror on it, so you could look and see if there are any eggs in the. Of course, if it was a mourning dove, you just have to look through the bottom of the nest because you could see the eggs.
Yes.
We've talked about that.
Yeah.
So true. So true. Oh,
I want to
Yeah.
know if maybe you are more connected. I want to know if the Guam kingfisher eggs hatched into babies and how those babies are doing. Do you have any idea?
No idea. No. I've seen Guam kingfishers in the wild, but I don't know anything about their. I assume is it the Smithsonian?
It's just
No, they were. It's a nature conservancy.
This isn't the one where they've transported it out to an atoll.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Palmyra,
Yeah,
yeah. So they put
Palmyra,
9
yeah.
birds out there, and it turns out there's multiple nests and they're breeding, and there were eggs that were sighted at the end of March, but I can't find any information on whether the eggs hatched.
Apart from hearing that they'd gone out there, I hadn't heard any updates to that. But that is exciting. But then again, since I've seen the bird in the wild, it's less exciting for me.
if they stay on Palmyra for long enough, there'll be another species out there.
That's true.
Yeah, another
there we go.
150,000 years or so.
Yeah. It might not take that long. There were only 9 of them to start. They'll evolve quickly.
What do they call it? We call that a evolutionary bottleneck.
Yeah, that's a pretty severe one. Oh.
More questions. I've got answers.
I was going to say, RJ, should we
save it for the
We'll
next
save-
time?
That's what I was going to say.
Definitely have you back.
Sounds good to me.
Peter, we'd love to have you back on.
Yes.
We haven't
anytime
done
at all.
any mannequin episodes, so we'll do a few mannequin episodes with you.
We can
then.
do mannequin episodes.
Yeah.
We can do Growleria ant pit episodes.
Yeah.
We can do island speciation or island extinctions episodes.
Love it.
Yeah, we'd love it.
Cool.
Yeah,
Sounds
that
awesome.
sounds great.
Adventures.
Yeah.
I've got so many adventures. I'm sure if you looked at any of the podcasts, a lot of the podcasts focus on adventures. But
Yeah.
anyway, I'm
Yeah.
love
a sus
that stuff.
ordinas, as they say in Spanish.
So,
Oh,
I have another strange question, which is, so, John and I are married, and obviously you
I
and
didn't
your
know
wife.
that.
Yeah,
But
we
it
are.
became more and more clear during the this conversation.
Yeah. He's sitting in one half of the house, I'm in the back half. But, you had to negotiate what your careers were going to be and where you were going to go. So how did that happen for the two of you? What did you do?
Well, I was very fortunate to marry somebody that was working in computers and was willing to travel around the world doing computer work in U.S. embassies. And Kimberly has been just an extraordinarily supportive person. I mean, there was only one time in our life where she has put her foot down and told me I couldn't go bird watching, and that was the morning of our wedding. When my brother Hank and I wanted to get up at 4 a.m. and drive up to northern Michigan to see Kirtland's warbler and be back by around noon for a 4 o'clock wedding. And Kimberly, who had already seen Kirtland's warbler, said no.
No.
But she has always been, just super, super supportive. So in a lot of ways, and when I had mentioned before about bidding in the Foreign Service for onward assignments. when you have two people who are both employees, you not only have to get your level and your specialty, but you also have to match up your spouse's specialty and level, and that can be a real challenge. On one occasion, I took a job that was below my grade, but Kimberly did that 3 or 4 times. She also went on leave without pay a couple of times, so that we could match up the jobs that were not staggered properly.
Yeah.
So yeah, she has been just unbearably supportive. I mean, I could not have done any of this without her being 100% supportive.
That's
So
great.
awesome.
Yeah, John and I shared a job when we started, a
Right.
little over a position each, but we were lucky. We had the same position that eventually became full time. But
This is Sunny the cat.
Oh,
Sunny, you have to look
Sunny.
over here.
Sonny, this
Hey.
whole house is for you.
That's right.
What a
Never goes
cutie.
outside. Kimberly was walking Sunny once. We have a harness for it, and Kimberly was walking him in the backyard to get him. She thinks he needs fresh air, and he caught a chipmunk on the leash.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
so Kimberly, going crazy, brings the cat inside. She drops the chipmunk. The chipmunk gets lost in the house.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
It was great. It was a huge disaster. Eventually, the chipmunk did get back out of the house. But it was a crazy couple of hours.
Oh my gosh.
I
better
bet.
a
Funny.
chipmunk than a bird, though.
That's
True.
true.
Chipmunks have cute faces and evil hearts. That's my take on them.
Oh my gosh.
Well, this has been an absolute delight for me. You guys, it's so much fun to get crazy questions, to get sort of scientific questions. I love this format, and if there's any way that I can help out in the future, I'm delighted to come back, talk about anything you all like.
We'll do that.
Love
Thanks
that.
so
Thank
much,
you
Peter.
so much.
Yeah.
Can't
Thank
wait
you so
to
much
have
for
you
coming
back.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll definitely have you back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amanda and
This
RJ
was
don't
awesome.
know what Pipirilus boisé is, so they're about to.
They'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
It is
Peter,
one of
Well,
the,
this was-
hopefully I'll get a picture of it.
yeah, it's
Yes.
one of
Yeah.
the coolest birds. Mannequins in general are pretty cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
Cool.
some of the things they do. My goodness gracious. Moonwalking and
Who knew that bird wings could make perfect harmonics?
yeah.
Wow.
I often say that my relationship with birds is like a multifaceted gem. I mean, there's so many things. Having intended to be an ornithologist and studying ornithology as an undergraduate, I have a tremendous interest in the science of birds, behavior of birds, distribution of birds, taxonomy of birds. But I used to, we lived in Frankfurt, and I'd walk to work every morning, and there was an a very old cemetery, and I'd always duck into the cemetery and walk through the cemetery and then walk back out. And there was a European robin that sang probably 10 months out of the year in that cemetery. And every time I would hear that little creature singing, I'd stop and wonder of it, the beauty of it and the amazing sound that came out of that tiny creature. And I mean, to see birds flying, I saw a roadkill alpine swift once in South Africa, and it was
Oh.
so sad to see this bird not killed. It actually had a broken wing, and there was nothing I could do about it. And it was just such an amazing. It's one thing to hold a study skin of a swift, but to actually have a living, breathing creature that flies 10 months of the year without stopping, that flies almost 100 miles an hour in a straight line. And it's just such an extraordinary, I mean, there are just so many, the beauty of the birds of paradise and the different fabulous things that birds do, and the beauty and the amazing things. My God, bar-tailed godwits flying to
New Zealand.
New Zealand nonstop.
Oh, wow.
Or redneck phalaropes. I just learned this redneck phalaropes in northern Europe winter in the eastern Pacific. They fly to Africa, and then they take a right turn and fly across the Atlantic, across Central America, into the Pacific, and then down off of the coast of Peru.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez. Unbelievable.
The stuff, it's, I could spend 5 or 6 lifetimes enjoying so many different aspects of birds. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you've got a hungry cat.
He's given up. He
went upstairs.
He's looking for chipmunks.
He's looking
He
for his mom.
He spends a lot of time by the back door. We've got a porch sort of like yours, but we're just in a little townhouse, so it's just a tiny little deck off the back, and we've got some feeders there. We've got bluebirds nesting in our backyard.
Oh,
Which
nice.
is it's
How
20 by
nice.
20 feet.
Oh, I don't
And
have
there's
bluebirds.
there's no open space. A couple of bluebirds showed up in the early spring. I said, "Gosh, what happens if I got a bluebird house?" So I went out and quick and bought one, put it up on the fence, and they're on their second brood already.
Oh my gosh,
wow.
how
How cool is
exciting.
that?
That's awesome.
Good
Oh,
job.
man.
Oh.
That's amazing.
And here I am in love with my house sparrows. I don't have.
I know,
I love
bluebirds. That's
You
awesome.
know, one of the fantastic things about house sparrows is the way that when the males molt and the throat feathers have a pale edge on it that wears off over time, and then they don't have to have a secondary molt to have their beautiful black throat when they want to be handsome and impress the female. Every time I see a male, I say, how the feathers on the throat doing? I mean, I love house sparrows. They're great.
That's so cool.
I fell in love with them during the pandemic when we couldn't go anywhere. So I decided I should be able to identify them as individuals because I spent so much time with them. And it turns out if you spend enough time with them, you can. There
That's
are
great.
individual differences. You do get to learn them.
That's neat.
And now it's so
That's
there's so
wonderful.
many of them. They're so deafening. We have to can't have the windows open when we're doing things like this because it can't hear anything. That's just house sparrows, house sparrows, house sparrows. And now baby
great.
starlings. So
Yeah, I'm not quite as enamored with starlings, although
I'm not
there are
either.
there's some very pretty starlings on our feeder a couple of days ago. We never get them. I called out to Kimberly. I said, "Kimberly, there's some beautiful birds back here." And she came back and said, "They're just starling." I said, "Look at them. Look at that beautiful gloss, the purple and the blue-green. They're really quite nice looking but
They are.
they're evil. And they don't belong here."
let's just say your bluebirds don't like them very much.
No. Although somebody told me that house wrens
Oh yes.
are lethal to bluebirds too.
Yeah.
Oh.
House wrens
I mean-
are surprisingly brutal.
Violent.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's kind of hard to, they're such pretty, and such a pretty little voice. It's hard to sort of put them in the category of lethality.
Yeah. Well,
They're tough.
better guard your bluebird eggs because
Yeah, they're brooding them right now, and we have a house wren house is only about 20 feet away from the bluebird house,
Oh, wow.
and 15 feet in the other direction. We only have a 20 by 20 foot yard. 15 feet in the other direction, we have an active Carolina wren nest.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
So we have 3 active nests in a 20 by 20 foot yard.
They clearly know a good thing.
Thanks everyone for listening. That was so much fun. We can't wait to have Peter back on. Also, we just wanted to give a shout out to all of our listeners and thank you for continuing to enjoy our show. It's because of you that we get to talk to these amazing guests, so we just want to say how important you all are to all of us and how much we appreciate you.